Thanks for downloading Ehnother Podcast from Ehnotherpodcast.com. Today's show can be found in many ways. iTunes, the Ehnotherpodcast.com webpage, and now can be found on Stitcher.com. You can now stream the latest show anywhere with the Stitcher app, on your computer, even on your boss's computer. Ehnother Podcast is now at your fingertips every day of the week and at your convenience. Enjoy today's episode of Warlock Wednesdays. Ehnotherpodcast.com. Not a sponsor. Attention, Sudbury football fans! Do you want to win a trip to Super Bowl 48? I know I do. Let me tell you how you can do that. Joe McDonald Youth Football League is holding a raffle. They are selling tickets to win a trip for the Super Bowl in New York City. That's Super Bowl 48. You can win 2 tickets for you and a friend. You would also get $500 spending money, transportation to and from, that's your flight there and back, plus a hotel stay for 3 nights at a 4-star hotel. How do you get these wonderful tickets? Well, you buy a raffle ticket. And how do you buy a raffle ticket? Well, you can go to one of many locations. For those locations, you can go to joemcdonaldfootball.com, or you can just listen to my next little bit. They are Beef and Bird. You can get them there. Cubit Portable Storage. Dr. M. Staffen New Sudbury Chiropractic. Eddie's Restaurant and Sports Bar. Kicks Hot New Country 91.7 FM. Lockerbie Confectionery. The Lounge 390 at the Quality Inn. New North Fuels. New Sudbury Shopping Mall at the Lottery Center, Nickel Belt Camping, Pro-Am Sportswear, and at the Rainbow Mall at the Lottery Center. And if this is not good enough for you, well, you can place your order by phone. That phone number to call for those raffle tickets, 705-524-2970. How much do these tickets cost, you ask? Well, the Joe McDonald Youth Football League is entering its 20th season, so why not make the tickets $20? And they did! Tickets, $20. You can get them now. Win your trip. Go to Super Bowl 48. Who knows who's playing? Looks like Denver Broncos maybe, but hey, you get to be there if they are. So win your trip to New York City and Super Bowl 48 by visiting joemcdonaldfootball.com and picking up your raffle tickets, because it goes for a great cause, and hey, you might win a trip to New York City. Hello and welcome to another Warlock Wednesday. This is the Warlock Hour. I'm your host, Razor. I am your sick host, Razor. I'm not feeling too well today, but that's okay. I'm still going to do the podcast because I'm just going to do it in chunks. So if there's sudden cuts, I'm sorry. There's going to be times where I might have to take a little break, but I'm going to try and do this the best I can, to the best of my abilities, and I still hope you enjoy the show. So let's get right into things, and we'll go to the comic books releases for this coming week. October the 9th, and that's today as you're listening. I'm not recording it on the 9th, but you are listening on the 9th. So what are today's comic book releases, you ask? Well, from DC Comics this week, we have Batgirl number 24, Forever Evil Arkham War number 1 of a 6-part miniseries, Smallville Season 11 number 18, Suicide Squad number 24, and an anticipated book, Superman Wonder Woman number 1. From Marvel this week, we have Deadpool number 18, Dexter number 4 of the 5-part miniseries, Infinity number 4 of a 6-part miniseries, Wolverine number 10, and X-Men number 6. And from the independent studios this week, from Boom Studios, 3 Guns, which is a comic book that, while the predecessor, 2 Guns, was turned into a movie recently, this is the sequel, 3 Guns. And it is book 3 of a 6-part miniseries. Also from Boom Studios this week, Sons of Anarchy number 2 of a 6-part miniseries. From Dark Horse Comics this week, Star Wars number 10. From Dynamite Entertainment, a book I'm looking forward to checking out very much, Cryptozoic Man number 1 of a 4-part miniseries. For those of you who watch the show Comic Book Men, this is the comic that was pitched by Walter Flanagan and Brian Johnson. I had blanked on his name for a second. Walter Flanagan and Brian Johnson to Dynamite Entertainment, and this is the comic book that they pitched and will be produced. As I said, this is book 1 of a 4-part miniseries. Also from Dynamite Entertainment this week, Red Sonja number 4. From IDW Publishing this week, we have Ghostbusters number 8 and Judge Dredd number 11. From Image Comics this week, Walking Dead number 115, and a special 10th anniversary edition of Walking Dead number 1. And this all comes on the preface, on the porch, on the doorstep of you, if you will, of the season premiere of The Walking Dead this coming Sunday. And finally, from Xenoscope Entertainment, Grimm Fairy Tales 2013 Halloween Special Edition, as well as the Grimm Fairy Tales Presents Oz, number 3 of the 6-part miniseries. So those are your comic book releases for the week. I hope you enjoyed them. As always, if you have a book or a title that you want me to follow, I can put it down on a list. Send me a message, a comment, a tweet, I'm on Facebook. I'll put the links in the description below. And you can also send a message to the Ehnother Podcast at gmail.com. So those are the comic book releases. Let's get into the movies. And, of course, as always, we start with the box office numbers. But, actually, sorry, I am wrong. We're not going to start with the box office numbers this week because I have to start with, unfortunately, some sad news. And the sad news is, this past week, or last week almost, October 2nd, 2013, which would have been last Wednesday, so 1 week ago today, we lost a wonderful author by the name of Tom Clancy. Now, if you haven't read any of his books, I guarantee you've probably seen one of his movies or played some of his video games. Some of the movies that you could possibly have seen were The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Sum of All Fears. Some of the video games are the Rainbow Six series of games. So, I mean, he's definitely been a huge part of entertainment for a very long time. He was only 66 years old, and so very sad, and I want to wish him a big bucket of win, and yeah, definitely, like a huge cauldron of win. Forget bucket, like huge cauldron, like some of those movies. I mean, you've gone from Alec Baldwin, who's played his lead character Jack Ryan in his books, who played him in The Hunt for Red October. Harrison Ford played the character for Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger. Mr. Ben Affleck has played him in The Sum of All Fears. There's even a new movie coming out in January, I think, called Jack Ryan, and that will be starring Chris Pine. So we've had 4 actors play this character already. I mean, and the fact that there's going to be no more books, we only have what there is to work with now, and other people's imaginations, I guess, if they want to continue it. But, great man, and definitely deserves us sending off. So, as I said, I'm sick, so bear with me, but we are moving on. We are going to do the box office numbers now, and number 1 this past week, not surprisingly, but surprising to me because the movie looks completely boring. I said this last week when I said it was coming out this week. Gravity looks just completely boring to me. I have not seen anything from it other than the trailers. Now, the trailers are supposed to make you like the movie. Now, I know I complain that there's too much, and I still think there are, but the point of a trailer is to make you like a movie. This has not made me like the movie. None of these trailers. None of the ones that I've seen have made me like this movie, or made me want to see this movie. Sorry, that's what I meant to say, is that they're supposed to make you want to see the movie. Well, I don't want to see this movie. However, it was the number 1 movie this week, and not only that, it was number 1 with a vengeance. It had astronomical numbers because it broke all openings for October. The opening for this movie, $55.7 million, over halfway through its budget already. The budget for this movie was $100 million plus, probably about 10 to 20, 30, who knows, million in marketing, but $55.7 million in its opening weekend. Number 2 was last week's number 1, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, coming in at $20.9 million. Now, the kind of bomb for the week, new movie Runner Runner, starring Justin Timberlake and Mr. Ben Affleck. $7.7 million of its $30 million budget kind of below expectations. Maybe this is backlash for him being announced as Batman. I don't know. The movie to me looks fantastic. See, this movie was in third, considered a box office bomb for its opening weekend. Yet I want to see it more than I want to see Gravity, which was the box office smash hit. Everybody has different tastes. You can see that all the way around. Everybody has different tastes. Everybody knows what they like, and unfortunately, not everybody's going to like the same thing. Or fortunately, not everybody's going to like the same thing, because then we don't get the same thing. Of course, I see a lot of crap out there, so you just don't know. And that's my opinion. I see a lot of crap out there. Some people like that crap, like Glee. There are people out there who like that show. I'm not one of them, and I never will be. I think it's the most horrendous show on TV. Well, no, not the most horrendous, but one of the most horrendous. It's in the bottom 5, definitely. Or top 5, depending on how you look at it. Number 4 this past week is Prisoners at $5.7 million. Number 5, Rush at $4.4 million. Number 6, Don John, $4.1 million. Baggage Claim drops to number 7 at $4 million. Insidious Chapter 2 is in the 8th spot at $2.4 million. Number 9 is a movie that my theater didn't get and was only on 387 screens, but still cracked the top 10. Pulling Strings at $2.4 million. And rounding out the top 10, Enough Said at $2.1 million for that movie. Now, I did mention an honorable mention last week, and we'll take a look at that. It was Parkland. It played on 257 screens. That's a very limited release. Not as limited as the Rush was the week before, which was only on 5 screens before it opened up big 2 weeks ago. And now, I guess, so 3 weeks ago, it would have opened limited at 5 screens. Then it jumped up to the 3,000 screens that it was on. But Parkland only opened on 257 screens. Unfortunately, it didn't do very well, bringing in an estimate or an actual value of $310,000. So, just to give you an indication, it was 25th on the chart. So, those are the box office numbers for this past week. So, what's coming out this week? Well, we have 3 releases coming out this week. We have Captain Phillips starring Tom Hanks on a boat. Now, this one doesn't crash, so hopefully no Wilson, because the last time Tom Hanks was on a boat was Castaway, and that was a boring as hell movie, and I actually fell asleep in the theater. I've never, ever done that. I've even had times where I've stayed up all night, went to see a 7 o'clock show the next day, which means I had been up for over 36 hours, and still managed to, well, I might have dozed a little bit. I woke myself up to finish watching the movie. However, Castaway, I could not do that. I actually fell asleep during that movie. That movie was just plain boring. And I'd feel the same way if I was going to watch Gravity. I would definitely have to make sure I drank a lot of coffee because I'd fall asleep. But Captain Phillips doesn't look like the same as Castaway. It actually looks quite interesting, so I might check that out. But that's one of the movies coming out this week. Another one that's coming out this week, another remake of Romeo and Juliet, another modernized version, blah, 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 star-crossed lovers, who the heck cares, why do they keep making them, I don't know. Moving on, the final movie that's coming out this week, and the one I want to see the most, is Machete Kills. Machete is a character that began in the Spy Kids movies and has moved on to do his own R-rated films, or 18A here in Canada, with Machete, the first film, and Machete Kills being this one. This is a star-studded cast, lots of big names in it. I'm not even going to go through the list, but it's introducing a new actor, or reintroducing an actor by the name of Estevez. I think it's Estevez. I have to check now. Oh God, I can't believe I forgot that. It's this cold. It's when I'm sick. I can't think. My head is not all there. So, can't believe I didn't get that. I just messed up my own freaking joke. Carlos Estevez. That's right, folks. Carlos Estevez is the introduced as in this one, and like I said, just a big cast. Lots of killing, lots of sexual content. Definitely not for the kids. Should be entertaining, a popcorn movie, if you will. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So let's move on. Those are your movie releases. We've got some casting and other news to go through. First of all, we got Scarlett Johansson talking about Captain America: The Winter Soldier. She is going to be in this one. She was previously in Iron Man 2, of course. The Avengers, obviously. So this is something else she's going to be in. And yes, this film is in real time. This is what she's saying about the movie. It's been 2 years since the characters appeared, and now both are agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fighting in the streets. We are not superheroes flying side by side. They help each other because we are fighting in a similar way. It's a working relationship. And then she was asked, well, how far does your friendship go? By a series of unfortunate encounters, she says, they will be in a situation in which their friendship becomes more intimate. They share many similarities because they live on the defensive without relying on anyone. Also, the two have been working for the government throughout their professional careers. With their friendship, they begin to question what they want and what is their true identity. Now, for those of you, spoiler alert, so if you want to stop for a few seconds or skip ahead, spoiler alert, for those of you who are wondering, apparently there is kind of an intimate scene, just some kissing, nothing sexual. You gotta remember, Steve Rogers is still a virgin. Black Widow is most definitely probably not. So, I mean, things are gonna happen, right? So, let's just wait and see how it plays out in the movie. I'm looking forward to this movie, of course, as part of the ongoing Phase 2 of the Marvel Universe. Speaking of Phase 2, the culmination of Phase 2 is Avengers: Age of Ultron. In an interview this past week, last Thursday in fact, Samuel L. Jackson was talking to the Wall Street Journal, and this is what he had to say. I don't think we begin shooting before March of next year. I know we're shooting in London, that James Spader is Ultron and going to be the bad guy, and that we added Miss Olsen, aka Elizabeth Olsen, who will play the Scarlet Witch. But I don't know what she's doing, if she's on the inside or the outside. I haven't seen a script. So, it's been confirmed that Elizabeth Olsen is part of Age of Ultron, Avengers 2, if you will, and she will be playing the Scarlet Witch. Also, it is unknown whether the Scarlet Witch, and by extension possibly her brother Quicksilver, are actually part of the Avengers, or are they on the outside kind of looking in? Like, there's so many questions that we don't know. Now, we know as readers that they are eventually Avengers, and we know that they'll probably end up with the team, but it's where they start and where they get to. Now, along with this, it's officially been announced, and this was a long time coming because he's been petitioning for the role, which, you know, you see actors petition for roles all the time and not necessarily get it. However, Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think that's his middle name, Aaron Johnson, whatever you want to call him, Kick-Ass, the actor who played Kick-Ass, is going to be playing Elizabeth Olsen's brother, or Elizabeth Olsen's character's brother, Quicksilver, in the movie of Age of Ultron. So, we have our Scarlet Witch, and we have our Quicksilver. Now, some people have been harsh on me because I don't have exclusive information from Disney itself saying that Elizabeth Olsen is official as being Scarlet Witch. To those people, whatever. You know what? You can believe me, you cannot believe me. At this point, I give up. I don't care. I break the news, you guys don't like it, too bad. I know that I'm right, and that's that. Screw you, I'm moving on. So, let's move on to some other Marvel news. Now, this is a visual, so I'll have to post the link in the description below, but it looks like that Ant-Man is kind of moving forward slowly but surely. It has till July 31st, 2015, so it's got some time. However, biopic was revealed by Mr. Edgar Wright, the director of Ant-Man, and it's a test screening. Now, there is somebody wearing the Ant-Man suit. However, since we have no information about this movie whatsoever, other than when it's going to be released, I would say that this is probably just a test, straightforward test, and that the actor or the person that's in the suit is not necessarily the actor that's playing Ant-Man or even a stuntman who's going to be in it. So, I'm going to post a picture below just to give you an indication of how it looks, because it's kind of cool. And normally I don't like to do visual things on the podcast because, I mean, you can't see it. And, well, when you can't see it, it's just kind of annoying sometimes. Alright, so let's move on to something else that's not Marvel related. Harvey Weinstein says the Scream show will be a new beginning. It's not going to be linked to the franchise. However, speaking of the franchise, it looks like we may get a Scream 5. Everyone lived in Scream 4, Harvey says. I'm begging my brother to do the movie and just end it. We've milked that cow. When he was asked about the TV show, he says it's supposed to represent a new beginning and also pursue a supernatural direction. So, personally, I don't want the TV show. However, I do agree that let's get a Scream 5 out there and kill everybody and just end it. Just end it completely and totally. Too many people lived in Scream 4. That was my problem with Jurassic Park 3. Too many people lived. When you do a movie like Jurassic Park 3 or Scream 4, you want to see some people get slashed or killed or eaten by dinosaurs if you're talking Jurassic Park. And when you don't see that, it's kind of disappointing. They're kind of letdowns. And if you're going to do a Scream 5, you got to kill more people. Alright, let's move on to some writer news. Amazing Spider-Man 3 has some writers. Those writers are Alex Kurtzman and Robert Orci. Now, they are currently working on the Sleepy Hollow show. They've worked on many other projects around. I'm sure you've seen their names. However, they've also done some bad movies. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen come to mind. However, they've also done some decent movies. Star Trek Into Darkness. So, I mean, they can do good movies. I enjoyed it. So it's interesting to see what Roberto Orci, sorry, or is it Orci or Orci? Maybe it's Orci. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci. I'm not sure. Now I'm not sure. I always said Orci, but it just sounds wrong now for some reason. Whatever, moving on. As I mentioned before here on the podcast, the Freddie Mercury biopic lost its actor in Sacha Baron Cohen, who wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to do R-rated movie. He wanted to do hard sex, or not hardcore sex, but he wanted to have sex, drugs, rock and roll. He really wanted to shoot for an American hard R, which would be an 18A here in Canada. Well, the remaining Queen members kiboshed that, and they have script and director approval, and they want a more family-friendly PG to, like PG-13 version, American, or as we say here in Canada, PG or 14A movie at the worst. Sacha Baron Cohen would have been good. He looks the part. However, the rumor now is that Dominic Cooper is circling the project. Now, if you don't recognize the name, I don't blame you. I had to look him up. Actually, I didn't have to look him up, but I looked him up for you, my audience. I know him, and you might know him from Captain America. He played Howard Stark in Captain America the First Avenger. He'll be playing Howard Stark in Captain America the Winter Soldier. He also, if you picked up the Iron Man 3 DVD, was on the Marvel one-shot Agent Carter. He's also played in many, many films. Just scrolling through, he was in Mamma Mia. He played the character of Sky. He was in a TV series where he played in, he was in Well, he's done a voice. That doesn't really count. I'll skip that because you won't get what he looks like. I will post a picture of what he looks like. Looking at him, just looking at him, I mean, with a haircut and maybe shave the beard, because the picture I have of him, he's in a beard, I think he could pull off the part. The question is, can he sing? Well, he was in Mamma Mia where he had to sing, so it's always possible that he can. I'm looking forward to this. Who knows where it's going to go? We'll just have to wait and see. Alright, another writing news for you. Fantastic Four is getting a reboot, and they have their scriptwriter. Simon Kinberg will be the writer for Fantastic Four. He will be working alongside Matthew Vaughn to make this script. I don't know too much of what he's done. However, they are trying to look into many different things where, not in this movie per se, but since Fox owns the rights to the X-Men and they own the rights to Fantastic Four, then in the future, he's already predicting that we could do a crossover where we have X-Men in the Fantastic Four universe or Fantastic Four in the X-Men universe. I still think they need to get somebody to take a look at killing Fox off, the whole company. Simply because Fox they're stubborn. They don't want to share the properties at all for with Disney to have some crossover. Now, here's some of the other writing credits just to give you an indication of what this man has done. He has worked on an X-Men movie before, on X-Men The Last Stand. Not so good. He's worked on X-Men Days of Future Past. But it looks good, so we'll have to see. He worked on Sherlock Holmes, which was pretty good. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, enjoyable. Jumper, Sherlock Holmes, I said that. This Means War. Triple X State of the Union. He's got some clunkers in there, but, he's had some good ones too, so we'll just have to wait and see. But those are some of the works that he's also done. Alright, Warner Brothers' Kevin Sugihara, Mr. CEO over at WB. He says, and I quote, "We need to get Wonder Woman on the big screen, or TV." No shit, Sherlock! This has been one of the hugest missed opportunities for Warner Brothers and DC. Now, they have huge plans at Warner Brothers to take a lot of the DC properties and put them either on television or on the big screen. Now, television is their biggest thing right now because their movies have not been hugely successful other than The Dark Knight. They, don't get me wrong, they've had success, but a lot of backlash. They take a lot of backlash, and DC takes a lot of backlash too. Now, there's been a rumor that the Man of Steel 2 movie was looking for a Diana, and that has been kiboshed. DC or Warner Brothers has said that no, it is a love interest for Bruce Wayne, not Wonder Woman. Okay. Maybe they're just saying that because we've seen it before. We've had Benedict Cumberbatch deny that he was Khan, and then all of a sudden Star Trek Into Darkness comes out, and guess what? He was Khan. Oh my god. What a surprise. Not really. But, we've had that from studios before. Now, they are saying that it is not Wonder Woman, and right now, from some of the things I've read, I'm tending to believe that. They just kind of want... as soon as they said tall woman, everybody went, oh, it's got to be Wonder Woman. No, it's just that Ben Affleck is tall. So if they have a short woman for Ben Affleck's love interest, it kind of looks bad on screen. So they're looking for somebody probably in the 5'7" at least range or higher. There's not many actresses that can pull that off, of course, but that's what they're looking for. And then you add in the fan film that was made, and you gotta agree, Wonder Woman has to be made. Now, when they did their testing of the Amazon on the CW. There was an actress who was part of that. And that actress's name was Adrienne Palicki. Now, I am disappointed it never really made it anywhere. Because she's perfect. Not perfect, but she's 5'11". That right there is probably the tallest actress you can find. She's athletic. I've seen her fight in G.I. Joe. She was good in Red Dawn. She just seems to me like she would be, right now, the person I would still cast as Wonder Woman in anything that gets made, other than an origin story where you're going to start her where she's a teenager and then I don't know where you go from there. Alright, so moving on, another little bit of casting news. Casting news that I hate reporting, but I try to report as much as I can. A movie that I don't think should be made, Finding Dory, the sequel to Finding Nemo. Again, don't think it should be made. Not scheduled for release till June 17th, 2016. However, Pixar movies always take 3 to 5 years to make, and so they are in the process of making it. Well, they've announced an actor that's returning. Be interesting to see how he returns, even though I don't know if I'll be actually seeing the movie. Ellen DeGeneres has already been confirmed to be back, and so has Albert Brooks. Diane Keaton, Eugene Levy, and Ty Burrell are already part of it. Well, they've now been joined by original cast voice member Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe will return to the franchise and voice, I guess, his character that he voiced in the last one. Either that, or they're gonna have I don't know, some kind of thing going on. I don't know. Anyways, that's what the casting news is. Okay, so that is it for movie news. We're going to get into some television news. First thing I wanted to let you know about is that there is a TV series being developed that is based on a movie. This TV series is called Limitless. Yes, Limitless. The movie that starred Bradley Cooper is being turned into a television series. And not only that, Bradley Cooper is actually looking into producing it himself. He will executive produce this drama with Leslie Dixon and Scott Kroop, who were the film's producers for the movie. No word on what's going on, no word on whether it's actually going to get picked up, but they are looking into getting it on the works. Now I want to get into a topic that has been much heated discussion, but before I do that, I need to take a little break. As I said, I'm not feeling well. This is going to be one of those breaks, but I'll be right back after a little break, and I will get into a topic that could take a little bit, so that's why I'm taking the break.
Hi, I'm Rob Cicchetto, creator of Zombie Portraits. You can check out Zombie Portraits at zombieportraits.com.
So I'm back, and I'm hopefully going to be able to carry on for a little bit longer. As I said before, I took a little break. There is a topic I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to use some comparisons. Now, a lot of people have had their own opinions, and I wanted to bring mine own in. Mine own? My own. Now, there's a new show on television that I'm really enjoying. It's called Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It is 2 episodes old, because as I'm recording this, it hasn't played its 3rd episode yet. However, that's okay. We're going to talk about the first 2. It's 2 episodes old, and I'm enjoying the show. I think it's fantastic right now. I love the fact that it's tying into the movies. I have said in the past that TV shows and movies cannot be tied in. The money doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The studios don't do that. Warner Brothers has had opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity to tie in stuff to their movies, especially when it comes to their comic book films and TV shows. Yet, time and time again, they don't. They just keep doing what they do, which is making stupid movies and they make better television series than they do movies, in my opinion. And I don't care what anybody says as far as things going. That's what I believe. I believe they make better television shows, better animated movies than they do live action films. And that's just what I feel. Okay, so as I said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is 2 episodes in, and I've enjoyed it very much. Clark Gregg has done a phenomenal job. I love watching Ming-Na Wen. She captured my attention, actually vocally first, because she was a voice in one of my favorite Disney flicks of all time, Mulan. And I love that movie, and she was a voice in it, and she did some singing in it. She's done other work, she's done numerous other works, but that's where I first really became a huge fan. Now, yes, the other characters in the show, other actors in the show, are not big names. But that's how television works. Television doesn't always have big names. They become big names through the work on television, and people aren't allowing them to. They're 2 episodes in, 2 measly little episodes in, and everybody's already like, oh, I don't know them. Watch the show! Get to know them. You might like them. But no, you want every week to be a star-studded cast. That's not how television works. You want that, you have to wait for movies. Television does not work with star-studded casts all the freaking time. They become the stars through playing episodes. Heck, there are many comparisons that I'm about to make, and I'm going to start with Arrow. Simply because it's a newer show. It has done 1 season, and when it started, basically most of those people were not known. When I watched the first couple episodes, I can honestly say that I didn't know any of them. Did that stop me from watching the show? No, it made me interested. It made me want to get to know them. They were a pretty good show, and I enjoy watching Arrow. I think it's a decent show. I think CW has done well. They did well with Smallville. They did well with this. So let's look at some comparisons now. S.H.I.E.L.D. has done huge numbers. In fact, its first episode had 11.9 million viewers when it was up against 2 juggernauts of television. One juggernaut being NCIS, which is absolutely huge for CBS. It's one of their biggest shows. Plus, this season started off with the first 2 episodes of that show being the farewell for one of its main characters, played by Cote de Pablo, the character of Ziva. Ziva David was leaving the show, and the first two episodes were her last 2. So the first episode competed against that first episode. It also competed against another juggernaut of a show, The Voice. To bring in 11.9 million viewers when you are up against NCIS and The Voice is pretty damn impressive. Whether you liked it or not, that's pretty damn impressive. Now, the following week, which was episode 2, which I again enjoyed, there was more of the overall story arc. Now, here's the other thing, too. Before I move on to episode 2, they started 2 overarching stories that are going to take place across all of season 1, I assume, or at least a chunk of season 1. There's the Rising Tide, which is an organization that puts out the truth, quote unquote, and basically does everything that S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't want them to do. And then there was 3. There was that. There was the second one, which is that there's this group that is making a concoction that is making superheroes, quote unquote, or supervillains, depending on how they use their powers. It's a combination of the Extremis virus and the Tesseract technology and all kinds of other stuff. All thrown into like a blender and then injected into people. There's that. And then there's the overriding story arc that everybody wants to know. How is Coulson still alive? Now, we've had a brief explanation. Excuse me. We've had a brief explanation of that, yet we don't know all the answers. In fact, there was a line in the show done by the actor Kobe Smulders and the other actor Ron Glass. Now, I know Kobe Smulders plays Maria Hill. I forget who Ron Glass plays. For those of you who don't recognize the name, you might recognize him from Firefly and Serenity, where he played Shepherd Book. And he said to Maria, he doesn't know what happened, does he? And she said, no, and that's the way it stays, or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact wording, but basically something has happened to Coulson that he doesn't know about, and there's been rampant speculation that he's either A, Vision, B, a clone, or C, something else entirely. I think I'm going with D, and that he is still Coulson, but something happened that they're not telling him, and we're not going to get that revealed until as the season plays out. The season's going to play out. Now we move to episode 2. Maria Hill's not in it because Kobe Smulders, unfortunately, has a full-time gig on a show called How I Met Your Mother. So she's only going to have like guest starring roles every now and then. It's going to be a recurring character. It's not going to be very frequent. It's going to be infrequent, in fact. But she is supposed to be in a couple of more episodes this season. We'll just have to wait and see when they are. However, in the second episode, we got more story. We found out more about Coulson, about his past anyways, and we found out more about this rising tide thing, or at least that we have, spoiler, a secret agent inside the S.H.I.E.L.D. group. Now, I have heard people say that, well, why isn't Coulson on a helicarrier? Why isn't he? I know he's level 7, he shouldn't do this. Well, he has his own team for a reason. He has his own team because he is not just a guy on a helicarrier doing nothing. People on the helicarrier don't actually do anything except for run the helicarrier. That's not what Coulson does. Coulson is a field agent. Coulson is running a team and needs to be out in the field to do that. If it was all in the helicarrier, it would be boring ass shit. It would be like watching Deep Space Nine, which, unfortunately, while I am a Star Trek fan, was one of the more boring of the Star Treks because they're on a damn space station. It doesn't really lend itself to a great show. At least with this plane thing, they're traveling around, they can go to different locations, they can do all kinds of sorts of things, different missions, and it's just, I am enjoying it. Now, let's get to the episode 2 viewership. 8.6 million viewers for episode 2. Yes, that is a decline of approximately 3.3 million viewers. Now, let's again look at what it was up against. The final episode of NCIS's Ziva David, also The Voice. Again, and it will be competing against The Voice every week. Although it might do better now that the blind editions are done, because we'll have to wait for week 3 and week 4 numbers, because after, I believe, this week, they are on to the battle rounds on The Voice, which means the second show, maybe not. No, this will still be the battle round, so it'll still be competing against Voice. But NCIS no longer has Ziva. We're going to see, I think, the numbers kind of peter out. And here's the thing. Let's take a look at some of the quote-unquote better shows. First, let's compare it to similar shows. Arrow. Arrow is been classified by some, not all, as a pretty darn good hero show, comic book show. Here's the thing. Episode 1 did really well, but it didn't do as well as episode 2 of S.H.I.E.L.D. It only brought in 4.02 million viewers. Now, that is pretty impressive for an opening show, but it still was like less than half of what the episode 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. brought in. Then it went on to fluctuate in the threes for a while, like in the 3 million range, and dropped even as low as 2.65 million viewers in the 18th episode. And over the course of the entire season, it only averaged about 3.8 million viewers over its entire season, which is identical to I got that wrong. It climbed back over 3 million for the remainder of the season. Like I said, over 3 million for the remainder of the season after episode 18. It averages out to just over 3 million. That's all it says. It's just over 3 million. Now we look at Smallville in its first season. Now, it averaged, in its first season, because I couldn't find by-episode numbers, 3.8 million viewers for its entire first season. So already, if that's the average, that means it still never reached the numbers of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, so those are two shows that are similar, and have had full seasons, and have had, Smallville's had 10, and Arrow's going into its second. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had 2 episodes. 2! It's still got a long way to go, people. So let's compare it against some of the top tier shows. Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad has been said to be one of the greatest series of all time. Not by me, but it's been said that. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. I am way behind, because I already know how it ends. I know what, not exactly what happens, but I know something happens in the finale. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, because it was spoiled for me, but it's my fault, because I'm like way behind. I'm only on season 2. However, this show, first episode, 1 million viewers. That's it. Breaking Bad only had 1 million viewers in its first show. Do you want to know how much it had in its last show? And this was the highest it's ever been. 10.9 million viewers. Well, guess what, folks? 10.9 million viewers for the finale. Absolutely, totally, completely impressive. However, it's still below 1 episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which had 11.9. So 1 million more people watched the first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. than watched the finale of Breaking Bad, which started off horribly as far as numbers are concerned. Then you take another show that's done very, very well and had lots of success, and Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, throughout all of Season 1, was under 3 million viewers for every episode until the finale, which makes its average at 2.84 million viewers per show. Now, Game of Thrones is a great show, but it didn't have the numbers. So you know what? You can nitpick, and you can say that, oh, the numbers dropped. Yeah, they dropped. They dropped to 8.6 million people watching a show. That's over 30% of the market for the 18 to 49 age category. That's pretty damn impressive when you spread it out over 3 networks. And more than that, but the bulk of it is watching ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., CBS's NCIS, and NBC's The Voice. Your bulk of your viewers are watching one of those 3 shows. And here's the thing. There's not much crossover except for maybe NCIS and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably going to stay in the good number range for them to continue on through this season and further. My review of the show is this. It's 2 episodes in. I'm enjoying it very much. I am very much a Marvel guy, so I might be biased. But I have seen that the most people that complain about it are DC guys. They like the DC shows. They like Arrow. They like Man of Steel. I enjoyed the movie, but I still don't think it's perfect. No show is perfect. Nothing is perfect. But there are shows that make me want to watch them more than others. And there are shows that I think are better than others give them credit for. Firefly, for example, got taken off the air after 1 season. Excellent freaking show. Yet, it's all down to what people want to watch at this time. And right now, there are a lot of people wanting to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Whether you're among them or not, this show's going to continue. Hell, that frackin' Glee show is still on the air. I hate it. I think it's one of the worst shows on television. Not the worst. There's a lot of worse shows on television than Glee. But it's a terrible show in my opinion, and yet it's still on the air. I don't want it on the air, but there are people who do. And I have to deal with it because there are people that do. So you know what? You don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Fine. Don't watch it. Watch something else. Don't tell me it's a shitty show because you don't like it. Tell me you don't like it. And I'll say, okay, I like it. I'm going to continue watching it. Don't say it's a shitty show and poor quality and because you don't understand something or you don't want to believe in something. You know what? I think Joss Whedon has never let me down. He has done some great television shows, he's done some great movies, and while he's not directly involved in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. all the time because he's got, a Marvel Cinematic Universe to run, he does have parts of saying, like, he has input into what Jed and Mo do, and that's Jed Whedon and his wife Marissa. And it's crazy to me that people are judging a show on 2 episodes, because I have always given every show 3 to 5 episodes before I say, you know what, this show isn't for me. I wait until that 3rd or 5th episode, depending on how badly. If it's kind of piqued my interest, I'll give it 5 episodes. If it's not piqued my interest after 3, then usually I do give it up. But I didn't like the first episode of Game of Thrones. In fact, after the first episode, I was like, oh my god, this is such a boring show. This show is so boring. It was because they had to introduce so many characters. But I gave it 3 episodes. By the 3rd episode, I was hooked. I was locked in, and I wanted to see more. I couldn't wait to see more. Of course, I had to, but not long, because I didn't watch season 1 till season 2 almost started. But still, I still did not like the first episode. Walking Dead. Walking Dead's another prime example. Walking Dead, the whole first season is very slow moving until the final, the final episode or 2. It's a very slow moving season. Yet, it is one of the best shows on television. So, give it time, folks. 2 episodes? Not enough to judge a show. And if it is for you, alright. You know what? All I can say is, you didn't give it a chance. So, I will continue watching for a long time to come. I'm sure that they are going to use this show to the best of their abilities to help with the movies that are to come, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. So that's all I have to say about that. I know that I probably insulted some people, and you know what? I'm sorry, but that's just my thoughts and my opinions. And that's what I'm doing this podcast for, to give you my thoughts and my opinions. You're not all going to agree with me. You might even hate me for saying what I say. But you know what? As long as you're listening, I'm happy. So let's take another little break here. I definitely need another little break before we get to the next segment, because our next segment is sports. We are done with the entertainment news. We will move on to sports just after this. Hi everyone, it's your Warlock Wednesday host Razor here, and I've got a new show that I've started a few weeks ago called Warlock Hour Presents NFL Pick'em. That's right, me and a couple of friends, we sit down, we pick our NFL picks for the week ahead, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you've been listening. If you haven't, maybe you can join in and listen tomorrow. We make our NFL picks, we discuss last week's picks, it's just an open, friendly competition. We see how things go, and, you might enjoy it, you might not. Whatever you do, tune in tomorrow here on Ehnotherpodcast.com. Listen to the NFL Pick'em, and if you like it, maybe you'll come back every week. So remember, come back to Ehnotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com, a Canadian podcast network. Welcome back, and of course, now we're on to sports. So let's take a look at the NFL. Around the league, we've seen a great comeback, unfortunately for my picks, from the New York Jets on Monday night. They were able to come back and defeat the Falcons. So Geno Smith is once again being puffed up by his coach Rex Ryan, and looking at going to the playoffs. It's early, but they're 3-2, tied for second in the division. It's not unfathomable. There's not a lot of teams pulling away. There's a few teams that are, but not a lot. So Jets are thinking playoffs again, or at least the fans are. Who knows? Then we look across. We got the Chicago Bears and Miami Dolphins. Both teams started out 3-0. However, both teams have also lost 2 straight. They now each sit at 3-2. The Dolphins have a bye week this coming week, while the Chicago Bears play on Thursday night, most injured night of the year, in my opinion. But, I don't make the rules. That's up to the commish. And the reason why I say most injured is because of this past Thursday. We'll get to injuries in just a bit. Looking around at the Denver Broncos Dallas Cowboys game. Well, there was no defense in this game. This game ended up being a shootout out in Dallas. The final score was Denver 51, Dallas 48. And we've coined a new phrase around the world. It's called Romoing, or to Romo something. And basically what that means is that the game was not well in hand. It was tied 48-48. And Dallas had the ball with just over 2 minutes left to play. And what did Romo do? Well, he Romoed things up. He ended up throwing an interception that cost his team the game. Instead of maybe trying to run the ball or trying to check off or do something other than what he did, he literally threw the ball to the Denver Broncos, who basically just ran a couple plays to let the clock wind down and kicked the last-second field goal to win the game, 51-48, scoring 99 points between the two teams, well over 800 yards between the two quarterbacks passing. I mean, he threw for over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, only had the 1 interception. Now, on any given day, you would think that would be a win, but not with Tony Romo. With Tony Romo, that equals a loss. Matt Ryan and the Falcons are devastated. They've been suffering injuries left, right, and center. And Julio Jones, as I said, injuries are going to come up, but Julio Jones in this past Monday night's game suffered a devastating injury that looks like he will be done for the year. The 49ers are turning things around. The 49ers have won 2 games without needing to effectively throw the ball. Colin Kaepernick is throwing well, but basically they've lost a couple of games, and they were starting to look bad, but they've turned things around. They're now 3-2, and thanks to a loss by the Seattle Seahawks to the Colts, are just 1 game back in the NFC West. So let's get to that injury roundup. Alright, over in Chicago, we have Nate Collins, who suffered a torn ACL, defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears, out for the season. He's going to be tough to replace. Seahawks coach Pete Carroll provided an update on Percy Harvin and said that the wide receiver began running last week and will return to Seattle to continue his rehab this week. His timetable to return is still unclear. Over in Carolina, Amini Silatulu will miss the remainder of the season with, guess what, folks, another ACL injury requiring surgery. Michael Crabtree is starting to run for the 49ers, and he's expected back sometime in mid to late November. The Green Bay Packers have announced that linebacker Rob Francois will miss the remainder of the season with a torn Achilles tendon, so not an ACL here. Also, Clay Matthews is possibly going to be out for a few more weeks, maybe even longer, maybe even to week 11 or 12, with a fractured thumb. So that's not good news for that. Also, linebacker Brad Jones is suffering an ankle injury. We'll have to wait for word on that. The New York Giants running back David Wilson is out for Thursday's game against Chicago. He will undergo a battery of tests this week as he had some neck numbness on Sunday. Over in Houston, they have a tight end problem. Owen Daniels could miss a few weeks with an injured fibula, so that's tough news for the Texans, who are having struggles offensively to get anything going. And as I said, the Atlanta Falcons are possibly going to be without both wide receivers, Roddy White and Julio Jones, this coming week. Roddy White is about 50-50 decision. He missed most of the fourth quarter on Monday, and Julio Jones could be done for the year with a foot injury, so that could require surgery. Jason Snelling also suffered a concussion in the game. As we all know, they will not let you back until you've passed all the tests. Roger Goodell and the owners had a meeting, their fall meetings, and out of those meetings came the following announcements. Currently, the NFL is not planning to locate any franchises in London. However, they do wish to continue their international games. In fact, so much so that they've added a third London game in the next season. The 3 teams that will be involved will be the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Oakland Raiders will all each play a game in London in 2014. Now, the interesting note here is all 3 of those teams are looking for new stadiums. The league has found no evidence, although I disagree highly, of Thursday night games producing more injuries. Now, this is more injury news, and I wanted to wait till this point to say it. He says that it's our job to build Thursday night football and make it. This is where you want to be on Thursday nights, watching NFL football, and it's fun. I like it. However, maybe they should do Thursday night games, start them a little later, make it like the London games. The London games, as soon as you have a game in London, you usually have a bye week the next week to help you cope. Well, maybe you don't schedule Thursday games until teams have had a bye week, so until week 3, and then what you do is you don't, after the bye week, so week 4 would be the first Thursday game, the 2 teams that were on bye, they play Thursday, they get the extra time. I think there's an injury problem. And why do I say that? Well, when my Bills took on the Cleveland Browns, not only did my team lose their quarterback for anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, but the Browns lost their quarterback for the entire year. Now, could this have just been a fluke? I don't know. I don't have the numbers. They say it's not an epidemic. I tend to disagree. I've seen many injuries on Thursday nights. Now, to be fair, there have been just a lot of injuries this year altogether. Also, the NFL is aggressively and actively looking to a solution that would put a franchise back in Los Angeles, but they won't do that without a new stadium, and they have to find a site that works and will have sustained success. Roger Goodell has said on the issue of the Redskins, he does not determine the name to be derogatory, but we have to take into consideration and listen to those that might, because we do have a franchise that's represented to people. Now, my question is this. Who is it derogatory to? And I'm not saying the culture, because I know what people are saying. It's derogatory to Native Americans and to, the Indian race. However, who is actually complaining? I guarantee you the percentage of actual football fans and football people complaining is minimal. So, you know what? If you don't like football, don't watch football and leave the Redskins alone. They are the Washington Redskins, okay? Deal with it. Moving on. The commissioner also went on to confirm the 3 cities that will be bidding for Super Bowl 52. That's the one that will take place in 2018. And the 3 cities are Indianapolis? Yes, did I say that right? Indianapolis. Minneapolis, which means the Minnesota Vikings, and New Orleans. So the Colts, the Vikings, and the Saints are all putting in bids. Now, here's my question. I think with all these domed stadiums, is that the way they want to go? Well, I guess it is. So it looks like a domed stadium will be taking center stage in Super Bowl 52. So let's get on to some standings and let's look around the league and see how your team might be stacking up. Over in the AFC East, the Patriots still lead the way with a 4-1 record. That's right, I said 4-1. They lost to the Cincinnati Bengals this week. I was pleased as a pig in poo. Well, pigs don't really like poo, but a pig in mud. Yes, I was as pleased as a pig that rolls around in the mud because I hate the Patriots. as vehemently as I can hate any team in the entire world, I hate the Patriots and the Yankees. And to a lesser degree, Sidney Crosby. But very close. Other teams in that division, the Dolphins and the Jets, sit at 3-2, while the Bills sit at 2-3. Over in the North, the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals all sit in first place with 3-2. That's right, I included the Cleveland Browns in that statement. All sitting at 3-2. Sitting in the basement, the 0-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. Over in the AFC South, the Colts 4-1 with that impressive win over Seattle this week. Tennessee sits at 3-2, the Texans at 2-3, and the lowly Jaguars, who've only scored 51 points, which, by the way, was the exact same amount of points they've scored in 5 games. Denver scored in 1 game against the Dallas Cowboys. That's impressive. Bad for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Good for the Broncos. The Jacksonville Jaguars are currently competing for the worst team in the league at 0-5. Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs leading the way in the AFC West with both 5-0 records, and the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers wrap out that division with 2-3 records. Moving over to the NFC, the East is a convoluted and very horrible division. Not as horrible as the NFC South, but we'll get to that just a little bit later. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys each sit with a 2-3 record. The Washington Redskins have a 1-3 record, while the New York Giants compete for that number 1 overall pick with Jacksonville at 0-5. In the NFC North, the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears each have a 3-2 record. The Green Bay Packers have a 2-2 record, while the Minnesota Vikings round out that division with a 1-3 record. Over in the NFC South, probably the worst division in the league, New Orleans Saints 5-0. The rest of those teams, not so much. Carolina Panthers are 1-3. The Atlanta Falcons are 1-4, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 0-4. Moving over to the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks are 4-1, while the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals are each 3-2. St. Louis Rams round out that division at 2-3. Let's move on to some statistics. And your top 5 passing quarterbacks right now are Peyton Manning with 1,884 yards, Drew Brees with 1,722 yards, Matt Ryan with 1,649 yards, Phillip Rivers with 1,610 yards, and Matt Stafford with 1,524 yards, which will give honorable mention since he did Romo things up. Tony Romo has 1,523 yards, 1 yard behind Matt Stafford. Your touchdown passing leaders are, of course, Peyton Manning leading the way with 20, Tony Romo with 13, also Phillip Rivers with 13, Drew Brees with 12, and then Sam Bradford, Matt Ryan, and Jay Cutler each with 10. Interceptions thrown, well, that is going to be impressively high for one person. Eli Manning has thrown 12 interceptions so far. Matt Schaub 9, Carson Palmer 9, Joe Flacco 8, and Geno Smith 8. Moving on to rushing yards. Your rushing yards leader is LaShawn McCoy with 514. The quarter way into the season, already halfway to 1,000 yards. Not bad for Shady McCoy. Adrian Peterson has 421, Marshawn Lynch 410, DeMarco Murray has 399, and Jamal Charles has 397. Your rushing touchdown leaders are Adrian Peterson with 5 rushing touchdowns, Noshawn Moreno and Fred Jackson each with 4 rushing touchdowns, and then we have a slew of runners each with 3 rushing touchdowns. Let's move on to the receiving yards. Your receiving yards leaders are Jermaine Gresham of the tight end for the New Orleans Saints, 593 yards. That's right, a tight end is leading the way in yardage. Next up, 580 yards for Jacoby Jones, who, as I said earlier, could be done for the year. Torrey Smith from Baltimore, 556 yards. Deshaun Jackson from Philly, 525 yards. And Victor Cruz from the Giants with 473 yards. Your receiving touchdown leaders are, Wes Welker with 7 touchdowns. And then we have Three players, Des Bryant, Jermaine Gresham, and Julius Thomas. Two tight ends in that mix, by the way, each with 6 touchdowns. And a third tight end helps round out the top 5 with 5 touchdowns. That's Jordan Cameron and Eddie Royal. Eddie Royal's a receiver, by the way, each with 5 touchdowns, but Cameron is the tight end. So 3 tight ends in the top 6 for recepted touchdowns. Let's move over to defense and take a look at your tackle leaders, and they are Carlos Dansby of the Arizona Cardinals, 45 tackles. Sean Lee of the Cowboys with 37. Also Lance Briggs of the Bears with 37. Navarro Bowman has 36, while Barry Church rounds out the top 5 with 35. Your sack leaders are 9.5 sacks for Mr. Robert Mathis. Justin Houston has 8.5. Mario Williams has 7.5. Terrell Suggs has 7. And rounding out the top 5, Sean Phillips has 5.5. Your interception leaders, 3 leaders in that category: Alteron Werner of Tennessee, Kiko Alonso of the Buffalo Bills, and Aqib Talib of the Patriots, each with 4. Then we have Patrick Peterson with 3, and then a slew of people with 2. So your defensive touchdowns are D'Angelo Hall with 2 and a slew of people with 1. And that's your statistics. That's your wrap for the NFL. Let's move on to the NHL. The NHL began this past week and is now a week old. And we're going to look at the standings and, of course, some statistics. All right, so leading the way in the Atlantic Division and in the conference, the Toronto Maple Leafs with 6 points. Also with 6 points in the conference, but in the Metropolitan Division, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then we have 3 teams, Boston and Detroit. Let's do this. You know what? I'm going to change this up. Start all over. Let's do this as if it was the playoffs, and we'll go to see who would make the playoffs. So, remember, the playoff rules are this. The top 3 teams in each division make the playoffs, and then 2 wildcard teams. So here are the top 3 teams in the Atlantic Division. As I already said, the Toronto Maple Leafs lead the way there with 6 points. Boston Bruins and Detroit Red Wings, each with 4 points, are the next 2 teams in that division. And moving on to the Metropolitan Division, Pittsburgh Penguins have 6 points, while the Islanders have 5, and Carolina has 3. Your 2 wild cards would currently come out of the Atlantic Division. Or, sorry, no, they wouldn't. One would come from the Metropolitan Division, one would come from the Atlantic. Not bad. They are the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Ottawa Senators. Moving over to the Western Conference, the Central Division leaders are Colorado Avalanche with 6 points, St. Louis Blues with 4 points, and the Winnipeg Jets with 4 points. Your Pacific Division leaders are the San Jose Sharks with 4 points, the Vancouver Canucks with 4 points, who are currently, I'm just going to double check that, they might have 6 points, so just going to look around here, because they are playing tonight as I'm recording this, and waiting for things to load. They are currently tied at 2 in the third period, so they still have 4 points. Anaheim also with 4 points, and the 2 wildcards currently are Calgary with 4 points and Chicago with 3. So far in the entire league, there is not a single team that doesn't have at least 1 point. Now we're very low in the numbers. Games played range from anywhere from 2 games played to 4 games played. Let's look at your leaders, your points leader. 2 guys lead the way here. Alex Ovechkin and Michael Grabner each have 6 points. Then we have Mikhail Grabowski, Lars Eller, and Joffrey Lupo, each with 5. Your goals leader is Alex Ovechkin with 4, while Mikhail Grabowski, Lars Eller, Radim Verbata, and P.A. Parento each have 3. Your assist leaders currently is Henrik Sedin with 5. Then we have Michael Grabner, Mike Green, Dustin Byfuglien, and Franz Nielsen. There we go. Yeah, Franz Nielsen, each with 4 assists. Plus minus leaders, Nicholas Hjalmarsson of the Chicago Blackhawks has 5, as does Nicholas Kronwall and Corey Sarich. So does Johnny Oduya. So those are your plus minus leaders. Your goals against average leader currently is believe it or not, former Leafs goaltender Ben Scrivens with a 0.0 goals against average. Next up, a lot of ones, Semyon Varlamov, Tuukka Rask, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Yaroslav Halak, each with 1.0 goals against average. Save percentage leaders, Ben Scrivens of the LA Kings. Semyon Varlamov, 0.967, Tuukka Rask, 966, Michael Neuwirth, 964, Marc-Andre Fleury, 963. Your wins leaders are Semyon Varlamov and Marc-Andre Fleury, each with 3, Tuukka Rask, Antti Niemi, Yaroslav Halak, and quite a few others, each with 2. Shutouts. Your shutouts are 3 of them. Marc-Andre Fleury, Yaroslav Halak, and Craig Anderson, each with 1 shutout. That is your NHL wrap for this week. Let's move on to baseball. And I'm not doing too much here, just recapping the playoffs as it stands right now. The Dodgers have moved on. They will compete in the National League Championship Series against... We'll have to wait till you'll know before I get to say it, because the 5th and deciding game will be played on Wednesday, the day this comes out. Pittsburgh and St. Louis. Remember, I did pick Pittsburgh to win the series, so I need a big win out of them in Game 5. Over in the American League Division Series currently sit at the Oakland Athletics and Detroit Tigers are tied at 2, so they have a 5th and deciding game to come up. And currently, it is top of the 9th in the Boston-Tampa Bay game where Boston leads 3-1, and if Boston holds on to win, they will win and move on to the American League Championship Series as they are up 2-1 in that series. So that is your baseball wrap. That is it for sports, and that is it for Warlock Wednesdays this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to come back every Wednesday to listen to the Warlock Hour. Hopefully I'm feeling better next week. I won't have to take so many breaks and lose my place, and I hope this podcast wasn't too bad for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, every week here on the Ehnother Podcast Network, we have many great shows. On Mondays, we have Ehnother Monday with the Ehnother Podcast with James and OJ. Tuesdays is Real Tuesdays, and you can listen to real music with OJ and James. Wednesdays, right here with me, the Warlock Hour, Warlock Wednesdays with Razor. Don't forget, Thursdays, the new show, NFL Pick'em. Warlock Hour presents Warlock NFL Pick'em. Every Thursday, we try to get that up. And next Thursday is actually going to be the hardest one, but this Thursdays will be up on time and in the bag. Alright, so that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. As always, come back every week and join us on Ehnotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. Download the shows on iTunes or find us on Stitcher.com. Thank you and have a great and wonderful day wherever you are. Hopefully you're feeling better than I am. I'm out. Thanks for listening to Ehnother Podcast from Ehnotherpodcast.com. Don't forget to go on iTunes and or download right from Ehnotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Ehnother Podcast. Be sure to check back for tomorrow's show only on Ehnother Podcast, your Canadian podcast network. Ehnotherpodcast.com. Not a sponsor.